welcome back to Math with McKay. All right, guys, we are in our student workbooks, lesson 19 and 20. So we're going to kind of combine those together, all right? So on lesson 19, we're going to go to page 203. And on page 203, the very first question says the ratio of cups of blue paint to cups of red paint is 1 to 2, which means for every, that word or that phrase, for every, if they don't tell you a specific number that follows that, that means 1. For every 1, all right, cup of blue paint, there are 2 cups of red paint. In this case, the equation would be red is equal to 2 times blue, or if they put it in the form of variables, they're going to say R, which stands for red, is equal to 2B. Whenever you don't see the multiplication symbol in between the number or the numbers and the letters, that means that it is implied, where B represents the amount of blue paint and R represents the amount of red paint. So what they want us to do is create a table to represent this. Remember, when you are creating a table, you want to keep the same consistency. So we're going to say red and blue, right? We're going to put it on there, right? So the amount of blue paint they told us was 1 to 2. If I wanted to continue this, all I would have to do is keep the same pattern at the top as I do to the bottom. What am I doing to the first number here to get to the second number? I'm multiplying 1 by 2 in order to get that. So all the way through, we're going to keep the same consistency. So if I use the next number, which is 2, I'm going to say 2 times 2, which is 4. Then we're going to use 3. 3 times 2, which is 6. Then we're going to use 4. 4 times 2, which is 8. And this can continue to go on. These are all equivalent ratios because they all have the same value. They have a value of 1 to 2. All right, now we're gonna flip the page and we're gonna go to exercise 1, where it's talking about Brian and Shanice are both training for a bike race and want to compare who rides his or her bike at a faster rate. Both bikers use apps on their phones to record the time and distance of their bike rides. Brian's app keeps track of his route on a table, and Shanice's app represents the amount on a graph. The information shown below. So if you look on page 204 as I'm speaking, you'll see that Brian, his number of hours it starts at 0 and number of miles is 0. Same thing with Shanice. The only difference is that one has a table, such as this one here, and then the other one has a graph, right? So as you go through, you check the number of hours compared to the number of miles. And if they line up, you look at the lowest one that they both have, which is 0 in this case. So you can't really compare the two because they're both at 0. But if I take the next one, right, and create a unit rate based off of that. So for Brian's, his is 75 miles for 3 hours, and this represents Brian. And then we have Shanice, right? If we look at the table, right? So we trace left to right first. We go to the number 1, and where does the dot line up across from that? So it is in between 10 and 20. So hers is going to be, so Shanice would be, is for 15 miles for 1 hour. This is already a unit rate because it has a denominator of 1. So what we need to do is find the unit rate for this one right here to see who's going to go faster. When you're doing the unit rate, you always want to look for the best bang for your buck, right? You want the maximum amount to the least amount for the same amount that you're going to get, right? So if I have 1 hour here, I want to make sure that this is also equivalent to 1 hour. So I'm going to go ahead and do the unit rate, or figure out what the unit rate is, right? So we say 75 miles for 3 hours. But we want to know how much for 1 hour, right? So we're going from 3 hours hour. Remember, the only operation that you would be using to go from a larger number to a smaller number is division. So we're going to divide both by 3. So if I divide the denominator by 3, then I must do the same thing to my numerator. I'm going to divide by 3. So we say, well, how many times will 3 go into 75? 75, we can think about money, right? So 4 quarters make $1, right? 3 quarters make 75 cents. So how much does 1 quarter equal? So 3 will go into 75 25 times. So take in 25 miles in an hour, right? So we're talking about who did this the fastest. So 25 miles for 1 hour compared to 15 miles for 1 hour. It seems that Brian is covering more miles in the same time than Shanice. So in this case, Brian would have covered more miles. His is better. All right. So then we could go ahead and continue that out. Whenever you are comparing tables or unit conversions and things of that sort, find the unit rate. How much is it for 1? And then what is the better? What are you going to get more out of for the same time? So now you have an opportunity to go through and work on some problems on your own.